Steve, Alain Prost, said to you at the end of 1989, he says, "Come on, let's go to Italy together." How did that come about?
Well, Adelaide, he invited me up to his room, and said he was going to Ferrari and he'd like me to come, which was great compliment, of course. And he'd seen, I think, what was going on, with the '88 car, and he knew where that came from and knew my capabilities and wanted me to come with him.
But let's talk a little bit more about Ferrari. The different ethos to McLaren. How different did they do things?
It was a lot different. It was chaos.
That's quite a strong word to use.
Not strong enough.
Was it that bad? I mean, chaos.
It was pretty bad. I guess the warning shot I had was from Harvey Postlethwaite. He said to me, they're not going to let you do what you want to do. And I thought, well, why not? Surely that's why they're hiring me. But it was like that. I go in, I give them this 5-year plan. We're going to do this, and this, we'll try to improve things, of course, and we'll gradually improve, and we'll learn how to work together and develop this team spirit. And, like at McLaren, we liked each other. We thought in the same way, and we liked to see each other succeed. And, there wasn't this blame culture and all of that. We really worked together. It was very much a team effort. It was almost family-like, and so we need to develop this team culture and work together and pull in the same direction. And we can win a few races the first year, and then the next year, we'll be even more competitive. And maybe after 3 years, we can challenge for the championship. And year 4 or 5, maybe we win the championship. And they were aghast. They said, no, we want to win the first race. We want to win the championship this year. And I said, well, we have to change the way we work. I've just come from McLaren where they do almost everything, almost perfectly. We got to be more like that. We have to change if you want to win, and particularly if you want to win championships, we have to change the way we work. They said, no, we don't want to change. We want to win in races. We want to win championships. We don't want to change the way we work. How's that supposed to work?
But back then, Ferrari must have had the same departments as McLaren in terms of the design office, the aero guys.
Yeah.
So what was different?
They had more. They had an engine department too. That was the incredible thing. They're building the chassis, they're building the gearbox, they're building the engine. I found it fascinating. I could wander out into the machine shop and they'd be making crankshafts and and they'd be machining engine blocks and heads and never seen that before.
But what was not gelling? What was not working? They've got the money. They've got all the departments in place. There were clearly some clever people there.
It was the chaos factor.
Too emotional?
It was probably too emotional, not sort of this cold, hard, unemotional approach to things. It was fantastic, actually. It was a brilliant experience. Nothing quite like winning a race at Ferrari. The outburst, the euphoria, the ringing the church bells in Maranello, and all of that. It's just a fantastic experience. The outpouring of emotion, and But God, on the other hand, you'd have this thing. You'd like their cooperation. You'd like them to contribute, and you'd like them to try to make things better, or at least just leave it alone. You're going down this path, and just let you go down the path. You'd kind of like them as a first step to maybe point out the potholes. There's a pothole there, maybe dodge around that one, and you'd like that. That'd be great. But some of them would be not just not pointing out the pothole; they'd be digging the potholes. So that's the sort of thing you're up. And I used to say it's fantastic, but it's kind of like the dream and the nightmare all happening at the same time.
Steve, having said all of that, the 641 of 1990 was a good racing car. Alain Prost got close to winning the world title.
Yeah, I know. Doesn't mean it was easy. The base car was pretty good. John Barnard had created a good design. But what I'm talking about, the reliability, the drivability of the engine, the inability to set the car up properly because you didn't have the right springs to work with, all of that sort of stuff, that had to be developed. And it was that development, the chassis setup, the engine setup, all the testing for reliability. It was all that sort of thing that made it begin to come together. We still had reliability problems, and I didn't really think we were going to win the World Championship, but we were going to have a pretty good go at it, and it was going to be a close-fought thing, you know, down to the wire. But I thought inevitably we're going to come up short, and maybe we'll be second. But it's a hell of a good first effort, and now we can build on that. If they can finally get their heads around the idea that you have to work logically and cool and calm and dispassionately and eliminate the emotion and all the histrionics. And
I guess, is that what Jean Todt
Absolutely.
saw and
Absolutely.
Ross Brawn saw? And it was only when
Ferrari would keep changing the people. They brought me in, they brought Prost in, and it didn't work, and so we'll change the people again. And what finally happened is, when you look at that, Todd comes and he establishes this firewall. You know, there's the whole press thing. I'd arrive, you know, we'd be on a flight to a race, and I'd arrive there and you'd see the senior managers arriving, and they got a stack of newspapers like this. They got to see what's being said about them in the press, and I just think, oh, for God's sake, just throw all that shit in the bin and ignore it, please, you know. And I think that's what Todd did. He just isolated the team, particularly the design team. He extinguished all the fire, and he just let them get on with the job. So you get Ross Brawn coming there with Rory Byrne, and they had some technical electronics wizard that came along as well, and Taz
Tad
something.
Chapsky.
Yeah, that one. And all that made a big difference. They come with this group of people, Schumacher and that great, you know, Brawn and Byrne and Zapsky and Todd. And he did exactly what I'd told him to do in the first place. Develop a plan, carry on through the years, gradually making progress. How many years was that whole crew that I just mentioned? Todd, Schumacher, Brawn, Byrne, Zapsky. It took them 4 years to win a world championship, didn't it?
Yeah, they came close, but it did. They all got together in '96.
Yeah.
Brawn came a little bit later, didn't he? But still, it was until 2000.
And they had, in the end, which I quite like, legendary reliability. You know, in that period.
Yes.
You got to finish the races.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so that gives you a little bit of
Yeah.
the flavor of Ferrari and why it was difficult, and they just didn't have the patience to put in the hard yards for 4 or 5 years.
It was all about tomorrow.
Yeah.
And what
Gotta
the
happen
headline
now.
in Gazzetta dello
Yeah.
Sport was going to be.
Yeah.
I guess.
That's
And
onerous.
ultimately, it was too much for Alain. And he describe the 91 car as a tractor at some point?
Or a truck or something.
truck or something,
Which
was
was
it?
bad. You know, you've got to show due respect.